Hello again, everyone. This is the second video of the week with the analysis practice quiz breakdown. And so basically, this practice quiz that I'm about to walk you through is going to look pretty much identical to your analysis quiz with the exception of the multiple choice section, or the matching section, I should say, not multiple choice, but matching section. So for this quiz, you're going to have three unique parts. In part one, your job will be to match the proper type of analytical argument with its respective analytical claim. Now, the other part of this is that not only will you have to match the correct corresponding letter or type of analysis with the statement, but you'll also have to briefly explain why you chose that particular analysis to match the statement. Now, keep in mind, these are 2 points each, but you'll get points taken off if you either miss the proper analysis that you make with the statement, or you'll get points taken off if you don't explain why you attach the particular analysis to its corresponding statement. And when you are ready to add your answer, so for number one, teachers are often seen as primary sources when it comes to education. However, the reach of their perspective can be seen as limited as people are finding many other ways to more actively learn and engage. So for this, you might say that that is C, authorial and reader response analysis, and then your explanation would be, when talking about primary and secondary sources, that type of analysis refers to authorial and reader response. And then you can either highlight it, whatever color you want, so I know that that is your answer. And so basically you'll need to give me the corresponding letter or analysis type, and then a brief explanation as to why you chose that particular type of analysis. Now, the secret or hint that I'll give you for this is that you want to look at what the statement is saying and look for key terms or key words that will help you correspond to the type of analysis. So if you're looking for minority analysis, you're probably going to be dealing with a statement that talks about a disenfranchised group, an oppressed community, some sort of individual who maybe has been oppressed based on a minority status. If you're looking at cultural analysis, you'll probably see terms or words that deal with groups or communities, or subcultures might be in there as well. When dealing with authorial and reader response analysis, look for anything that deals with sources. So if you see something that says primary or secondary sources, it's probably an authorial or reader response. And then psychoanalytic analysis, you're looking at something that might indicate human behavior, talk about the mind, talk about death, talk about sexuality. That is typically psychoanalysis. And then if you see a statement that isn't necessarily an argument, but a statement of fact, it is none of the above. So for example, Facebook is a social media platform with over 1 billion active users. That is a fact. So that would not fall into any of the analytical types of analysis. So keep that in mind. If it's a statement of fact, it's none of the above. So again, what separates quality music from mediocre artists are the philosophy and culture that are deeply ingrained in that artist. So your key words here, philosophy and culture. The word culture is actually in the statement, so that would be a cultural analysis. Now, one thing to keep in mind, as I also said in the analysis video I posted last week, is that there can be intersection between different types of analysis. So for example, if you were to see this, and you might say, what separates quality music from mediocre artists are the philosophy and culture that are deeply ingrained in that artist, you might make the argument that this could also be minority analysis. And if you were to say a minority analysis, you would also need to explain why you chose minority analysis. So you might say, this is minority analysis due to the fact that different cultures are often misrepresented by mainstream music platforms based on their cultural demographics. So you could make the argument for cultural or minority, but you always want to make sure you clearly explain exactly why you chose that particular type of analysis. Doxing is a dangerous weapon of modern social media communities. Excuse me. Social media communities that enables users to seek and broadcast private information. So you might see the term communities in here, so that might deal with cultural analysis. Or you could also say that doxing is a sort of psychological sort of tool, so you might make the argument that that's psychoanalysis. And then the Me Too movement was a successful campaign assembled by subjugated victims to keep perpetrators and abusers accountable. So the term subjugated victims deals with an oppressed group. So that will most likely be a minority analysis. So you might pick A for that, and then you would simply explain why you chose that particular answer. So again, for part one, make sure to give me the corresponding letter and then a brief explanation to get the points for this. The ways you get points taken off if you choose the incorrect type of analysis or if you do not include your subsequent explanation. In part two, your job will be to either apply or extract one of the types of analysis. Quick hint for you, if you completed the engaging analysis assignment, you essentially applied one of the four types of analysis to a worldly situation. So in this case, your job would be to do the same thing, but with a different example from what you did in engaging analysis. So maybe you find a movie trailer for an upcoming horror movie and you apply psychoanalysis to it. And your job would be to describe the horror movie trailer that you are watching, and then you are to explain how psychoanalysis might apply to this particular topic. So, for example, in a horror movie, you're usually dealing with shock, scares, psychological treatment of the mind, not just for the people involved in the film, but for the audience. What is it about being scared or having this heightened fear that human beings are attracted to? So that would be your explanation along with a summary for that. Now, when we extract a type of analysis, what your job would be then would be to find something that is already being analyzed and then extract or pull the type of analysis that the author is talking about in that particular example. And then your goal would be to summarize the clip or the video or the cultural artifact that you chose, whether that's a picture, a song, an article, a video. And then your job will be to explain the key terms that the author uses to help explain why it might be psychoanalysis or cultural analysis or minority analysis, etc. So when we apply analysis, we take a topic and we put one of the four types of analysis to it and we apply and look at it through that lens. When we extract analysis, we're taking a topic that's already being analyzed and looking for the key terms to verify, is this psychoanalysis, is this cultural analysis, is this minority or authorial or reader response? And then lastly, what you will do is then in part two, you can either take the analysis that you investigated or examined and you can challenge it, or you can challenge any of the topics that we may have covered in class so far. So with this challenge, your job will be to summarize what the initial analysis was. So for example, maybe you look at a particular movie, a trailer for a particular movie, and you're looking at it through the lens of a minority, and you say, this particular movie does a good job of looking at the LGBTQ community. And that would be your explanation in part two, and you give details as to why. In part three, your job would then be to challenge that particular type of analysis and say, though this film does have good representation when it comes to the LGBT community, there are several key factors that are missing that are important for people to know or understand or address. After you've given me the initial explanation or the initial analysis, you've given me the analytical challenge, then you need to provide me with at least one source properly cited and summarized that at least tells me or at least reinforces your analytical challenge. So if you were to find a review of that film, if you were to find another source that challenges it and it kind of reinforces your idea, you need to at least provide me with one source and that link to that source to make sure that you get the full points for this. And areas where students get points taken off is if they don't give me the original analytical challenge or the original point of analysis, if they don't provide a clear analytical challenge, or if they don't provide me with a link to their source or a summary as to how that particular source helps support their analytical challenge. So make sure that you are doing all of those things to get the full points. This quiz will be worth 30 points, so please make sure that you work on it, you reference it. Obviously, you can work on it a little bit and then go back to it. Don't email it to me until you're absolutely sure that you are done. Please make sure that you are referencing this video and to reference the analysis section under the research project section on Blackboard if you would like further insight or information.